Imagine walking through a quiet Japanese neighborhood and discovering something that feels almost impossible. The houses look beautiful, carefully designed, and perfectly maintained, yet many of them are not treated as permanent structures meant to last forever. Instead, Japan has a unique relationship with homes, one where rebuilding can sometimes be seen as a natural part of life rather than a sign of failure. But why would a country known for precision, craftsmanship, and attention to detail choose to replace houses that could still be standing? Why would generations of families accept a system where a home's value is not always measured by its age? The answer reveals a fascinating story about culture, tradition, economics, nature, and the way people think about the meaning of a home. When many people around the world think about buying a house, they imagine something that will remain in the family for generations. An old house often represents history, memories, and increasing value. In many places, the older a home becomes, the more special it may seem. Japan approaches this idea differently. In many Japanese communities, a house is not always viewed as a permanent monument. Instead, the land beneath the house often carries more lasting importance. The structure itself can be seen as something that changes with time, adapting to new needs, new technology, and new generations. This mindset did not appear overnight. It developed through centuries of experiences that shaped how Japanese society views buildings and renewal. Japan is a country where nature has always played a powerful role in daily life. The islands experience earthquakes, typhoons, humidity, and other environmental challenges. Because of this, Japanese architecture evolved around flexibility and adaptation. Traditional building methods often focused on creating structures that could respond to changing conditions rather than simply resisting them. Wood became an important material in Japanese construction because it was practical, available, and well-suited to the environment. Wooden homes could be repaired, adjusted, and redesigned over time. This created a culture where rebuilding was not necessarily viewed as destroying something valuable. Instead, it could represent renewal and continuation. One of the most interesting parts of Japan's housing culture is the difference between emotional value and financial value. A family may deeply love the home where they grew up. They may remember celebrations, conversations, and important moments that happened inside those walls. But when it comes to the housing market, older buildings often do not always increase in value the way they do in many other countries. In some cases, the land becomes the more valuable asset, while the house itself may lose value as it becomes older. This creates a situation where rebuilding a home can sometimes make more practical sense than preserving an aging structure. But there is another layer to this story. The idea of rebuilding is not only about replacing old buildings, it connects to a deeper cultural appreciation for renewal. Japan has many traditions that celebrate the beauty of impermanence, the understanding that change is a natural part of life. This philosophy can be seen in many areas of Japanese culture. Old things are respected, but change is not always feared. A new beginning does not erase the importance of the past. Instead, it can carry the spirit of what came before into a new form. A powerful example of this thinking can be found in traditional Japanese craftsmanship, where skills are passed from one generation to another. The goal is not always to keep the exact same physical object forever. The goal is to preserve knowledge, meaning, and connection. This raises an important question. If a building is replaced, does the history disappear? The answer depends on how we define history. For many people, a home is valuable because of the memories created inside it, not simply because of the materials used to build it. A new house can still stand on the same land, carry the same family stories, and continue the same emotional journey. The walls may change, but the meaning can remain. And this is where Japan's approach becomes especially fascinating. It challenges a common belief that older automatically means better. Instead, it suggests that sometimes value comes from the ability to adapt. Of course, not every house in Japan is rebuilt according to a strict pattern, and the idea that every home is replaced after a specific period is an oversimplification. Many factors influence housing decisions, including location, cost, family preferences, construction quality, and changing lifestyles. However, the broader cultural pattern remains remarkable. Japan has developed a relationship with homes that focuses less on preserving every physical structure forever and more on creating spaces that serve the people living inside them. Now consider this. What if the way we think about houses says something about the way we think about life itself? In many societies, people often try to hold on to things for as long as possible. A building becomes a symbol of stability and permanence. Japan offers a different perspective, one where renewal can be a form of respect rather than replacement. This idea becomes even more meaningful when we look at how modern life is changing. Families have different needs today than they did generations ago. Technology, energy efficiency, and lifestyles continue to evolve. A house designed decades ago may not always match the way people live today. Rebuilding allows a home to transform alongside the people who use it. This does not mean old buildings have no value. Historic structures, traditional homes, and cultural landmarks are carefully protected throughout Japan. Preservation remains extremely important when a building represents unique history, architecture, or heritage. The fascinating part is the balance between protecting the past and welcoming the future. Japan's housing culture reminds us that progress does not always mean forgetting where we came from. Sometimes it means carrying important lessons forward while allowing the physical world around us to change. A house is more than wood, concrete, and design. It is a place where human experiences unfold. It holds conversations, celebrations, challenges, and dreams. Whether it stands for centuries or is rebuilt by a new generation, its deepest value comes from the lives connected to it. This is perhaps the most meaningful lesson behind Japan's unique approach to housing. While the physical structure may change over time, the emotional connection people have with a place often remains remarkably strong. A family might gather around the same piece of land for decades, celebrating birthdays, welcoming new children, honoring loved ones, and passing traditions from one generation to the next. Even if the house itself is replaced, those memories do not simply disappear. They become part of the family's story, carried forward into the new home that stands in its place. In many ways, rebuilding is not about forgetting the past. It is about preparing for the future while respecting what came before. A newer house can offer better protection against earthquakes, improved energy efficiency, and a design that reflects the changing needs of modern families. Instead of viewing change as the end of something meaningful, many people see it as an opportunity to continue their story in a safer, more comfortable space. This perspective challenges the common belief that permanence only exists in physical objects. Japan reminds us that what truly endures is not always the building itself, but the relationships, traditions, and experiences created within it. Walls can be rebuilt, rooms can be redesigned, and materials can be replaced, yet the identity of a family can continue uninterrupted. Perhaps that is why Japan's housing culture feels so different. It encourages us to see a home not simply as a structure meant to last forever, but as a living space that grows and changes alongside the people who call it home. In the end, the greatest value of any house is not measured by how long its walls remain standing, but by the countless human stories those walls have witnessed. Perhaps the most surprising lesson from Japan is that permanence is not always about keeping the same walls forever. Sometimes permanence comes from the things that continue even when the walls change. That idea may seem unusual at first, especially in a world where we often associate age with value. Many cultures admire buildings that have stood for centuries, believing that preserving every brick and every beam is the best way to honor history. Japan offers a different perspective. It suggests that the true essence of a home does not necessarily live in the materials used to build it, but in the lives that unfold within it. When a house is rebuilt, a family's story does not begin again from zero. The same traditions can continue, the same holidays can be celebrated, and the same memories can be shared with future generations. Children may grow up on the very same piece of land where their parents and grandparents once played, even if the building around them has changed. In this way, continuity comes from people rather than from architecture alone. This philosophy also reflects Japan's broader understanding that change is an unavoidable part of life. Seasons change, communities evolve, and every generation faces new challenges and new opportunities. Rather than resisting change, Japan often embraces it, while preserving the values that matter most. Japan's approach to rebuilding invites us to think differently about the places we call home. It shows us that change does not always mean losing something. Sometimes, change is how something meaningful continues. If this story gave you a new perspective on architecture, culture, and the way people around the world live, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more fascinating stories, and share your thoughts in the comments. Would you prefer a home that lasts forever, or one that evolves with every generation?